All right, welcome. If you're out there building agentic AI systems, you know that efficiency isn't just a nice to have, it's everything. Today, we're going deep for all you system architects on one of the most powerful tools you've got in your toolbox, quantization. Let's get right into it. And this right here, this quote just gets to the absolute heart of the problem, doesn't it? We're seeing this pattern all over the place, using these incredibly powerful and frankly, very expensive models for simple, repetitive tasks. It's inefficient, it's slow, and it costs a fortune. We're here to talk about how to fix that. Yeah, we're basically talking about AI overkill. And you know what? Nowhere is this more obvious than in these new agentic systems. The moment you have multiple AI agents all trying to work together on one query, retrieving, planning, judging, generating, every single tiny bit of inefficiency just gets magnified, like tenfold. This is exactly where we need to get smarter about how we deploy our models.
So the solution is a technique called quantization. And honestly, the best way to get your head around it is to just think about image compression. You know how you can take a massive, super high-resolution photo and save it as a JPEG? Right? You lose a tiny bit of detail you'd probably never notice anyway, but the file size just shrinks dramatically. Quantization does pretty much the same thing, but for the weights inside an AI model.
Now, quantization isn't just some on or off switch. It's really a whole spectrum of choices, and each one comes with its own set of trade-offs. So let's break down the main levels you, as an architect, are going to run into. So way over on one end, you've got FP16. That's 16-bit floating point. This is our high-fidelity baseline. The quality is fantastic, but man, is it memory hungry. Then you have INT8, which for a long time has been the classic workhorse for production AI. It cuts your memory in half with almost zero quality loss. But then we get to the really exciting stuff. INT4 gives you super aggressive compression. And all the way at the other end, these 1.5, 8-bit models, well, they represent a radical new frontier in efficiency. In this chart, it lays out the fundamental trade-off just perfectly. As you move to lower precision, so from left to right here, look what happens. Your memory usage absolutely plummets and your speed and throughput go through the roof. But you have to keep an eye on that third bar, complex reasoning accuracy. It holds up surprisingly well, but if you get too aggressive with the quantization, it can start to take a hit. The whole game is knowing which tasks can handle that trade-off. So let's zoom in on the two areas that are having the biggest impact in the real world right now. These aggressive 4-bit models and the truly revolutionary 1-bit models. And I want to be clear, these aren't just research projects anymore. They are quickly becoming the new workhorses in production AI systems. You might hear people throwing around the term turboquant. It's not an official thing, really. It's more of an informal name for these super powerful 4-bit methods. You've got techniques like AWQ, which stands for Activation-Aware Weight Quantization. It's really clever. It protects the most important data pathways in the model while it's compressing everything else, which leads to amazing performance. Then there's another one, GPTQ, which is really well known for its flexibility. It makes it super easy to deploy on all different kinds of hardware. And we're not talking about small gains here. This is huge. If you look at benchmarks on a top-of-the-line NVIDIA H100 GPU, a 4-bit miniature model can be up to 2.7 times faster than its 16-bit version. I mean, that's not a minor tweak. That is a complete game changer for your throughput and your costs. Okay, so 4-bit versus 1-bit, when do you use which? This slide really breaks it down. The way to think about it is this. 4-bit models are your versatile, all-around players. They're great for compressing most models, and you only take a small, totally manageable hit on complex reasoning. On the other hand, 1-bit models like BitNet are hyper-specialists. You're not going to use them to write beautiful, nuanced prose, but for simple, high-speed tasks, they are absolutely unbeatable. Now, BitNet, this thing is on a whole other level. It's not just compressing a model, it's a totally different architecture, trained from the ground up, where every single weight is either a -1, a 0, or a +1. Just those three values. And what that means is you can replace billions of really expensive floating point multiplications with simple, lightning-fast additions. It fundamentally changes the math the computer has to do. And the results are just, wow. Take a look at these numbers from the BitNet CPP framework. On standard x86 CPUs, I'm talking the kind in your laptop, you can see over a 6x speedup and an 82% drop in energy use. This is what makes it possible to run really powerful models on edge devices, even on phones, without any specialized hardware. It's incredible.
All right, so we've got these incredible new tools. The real question is, how do we actually use them? Because the magic isn't just in using a single quantized model. It's in composing them, building them into smarter, more efficient agentic systems. Let's look at 3 powerful patterns you can literally go and deploy today.
First up, let's talk about the lightweight judge pattern. Think about your RAG pipeline. Instead of retrieving 10 documents and sending all 10 to your big, expensive model, you first pass them through a small, fast 4-bit judge model. Its only job is to quickly ask, is this chunk of text actually relevant? It filters out all the noise so your main model only has to work on the most valuable information. This can slash your costs and latency.
Pattern number 2 is the edge router. Imagine a hyper-efficient 1-bit BitNet model sitting right at the front door of your system. It doesn't even need a GPU. It just runs on a CPU and acts like a smart traffic cop. It looks at an incoming query and decides, is this a simple FAQ? Okay, send it to a cheap, fast model. Is this a complex, multi-step reasoning task? All right, route that one to the big guns. It's a simple idea, but it can dramatically improve how responsive your whole system feels.
And our third pattern is the local critic. A lot of agentic systems have this reflection loop, where one agent basically checks another agent's work. It's a great idea, but it can be really slow. The pattern here is to use a fast 4-bit critic for that first-pass quality check. It can quickly scan for things like correct JSON formatting or check for factual consistency. Only if it flags a problem does the task get escalated for a more expensive review by a bigger model.
So when you start weaving these patterns together, the benefits at a system level are just massive. You're slashing your operational costs. You're reducing latency for most of your users. You're boosting the total number of people you can serve at once. You're enabling powerful AI on devices that could never handle it before. And, crucially, you're building a smarter system that avoids what I call the quantization trap. That's where a model is so compressed it makes a bunch of mistakes, and the cost of having to retry just cancels out all your speed gains.
Okay, we have the tools, we have the patterns. Now for the final piece of the puzzle. A simple, actionable framework to help you decide when to use what in your own architecture. For every single step in your AI workflow, you have to ask yourself one single critical question, and it's this. What is the cognitive load of this specific task? Is it a simple, repetitive job like classification, or is it a complex, nuanced task like writing code or doing multi-step math?
And this decision tree makes it super practical. If the task is simple, classification, routing, judging relevance, go aggressive. Deploy 4-bit or even 1-bit models. If the task involves complex reasoning, math, code generation, you want to start more conservatively, maybe with 8-bit quantization, and then test it rigorously. And finally, for that last, most crucial step, the actual response the user sees, don't compromise. Ever. Use the full precision model.
Seriously, if you walk away with just one thing today, let it be this rule. Quantize the sub-agents, not the final voice. The worker bees inside your system, they can and they should be hyper-efficient, but the agent that actually speaks to your user needs to be your absolute highest quality model.
So let's be crystal clear about this. Quantization isn't a compromise. It's an architecture decision. The teams out there that are saving 60, 70% on their inference bills, they aren't running worse AI. They're running smarter, more thoughtfully designed systems that use the right tool for the right job.
Hey, if this deep dive was useful for you, do us a favor and hit that subscribe button for more explainers on building production-grade AI. And to help you put all this into practice, we put together a free model sizing cheat sheet that summarizes these concepts. The link for that is right down in the description.
So I'll leave you with this question to chew on. Look at your own AI pipeline. I don't care if it's a simple RAG setup or a super complex multi-agent system. Which role in that pipeline could you fill with a faster, cheaper, quantized model starting today? Let us know what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching.